Halloween Special Part 1 by Saphroneth. With her usual dexterity, Pinkie Pie opened up her oven and pulled out her latest piping hot creation with her oven-proof hoof mitts. Okay, how does this go? The pink-coated baking pony thought to herself, there was something about chaos and degenerate sons. I'll just make my own thingy up. She happily decided, oh great bust of discord, which I have baked out of meringue. Hi. It's me, Pinkie Pie. Please make every pony turn into their costumes for this nightmare night. Oh, and also make sure no pony gets really hurt as a result, because I just want this to be a really fun surprise. If you do this, I will make you a tasty cake and other treats when you get freed from your stone prison. Why thing? So I speaketh, so mote it be. Mote. That's a funny word. Mote. Moot. Oh yeah. Pinkie Pie reared up and slammed her front hooves on the table to each side of the meringue statue, channeling as much earth pony magic into the ritual as she could. The sugary bust of discord started to glow. Then she suddenly realized something. Oh no. My costume. There's no time to put on the one I wanted, and I don't have any good ones in my Pinkie storage space at the moment. I don't want to take my ascendant form because Twilight could probably figure out what was going on. Oh yeah. I do have costumes hidden all over for just this kind of emergency. Pinkie Pie rushed over to her nearest stash, and then stopped. There were two costumes that she really wanted to wear. She whipped her head between them before deciding. Suddenly, there were two Pinkie Pies. One started struggling to get into the strange crab-like costume while the other one grabbed the various supplies and accessories and ran into the next room. A liberal, if messy application of temporary coat and mane dye, a fake cutie mark sticker, a bit of magic and willpower to straighten her mane and tail, some cardboard and felt wings, and the last bit. Then there was a brief pulse of magic as the tasty statue activated, and it wasn't Pinkie Pie standing there anymore. She looked around in confusion, tried to take a step and stumbled. After regaining her balance, she looked at her hooves. I have hooves now? I'm a horse. The pony looked around at herself. Cream-colored coat, although with a few faint pink splotches. She walked up to a nearby mirror and stopped. She had a straight brown mane and tail, but her gaze continued over to her flared wings and horn and, yep, there was a mark on either side of her. As she stared at small Inkwell and Quill, Lauren exclaimed, I have a cutie mark. I'm my little pony. Why am I not freaking out? Oh wait, there it goes. The new alicorn twitched a few times and collapsed into a shivering ball. Asterisk. Pinkie giggled to herself as she slipped the crab-like claws over her front hooves, glancing at her barrel to reassure herself that, yes, the false pair of legs there still clung to her form. It had taken a bit of trickery to figure out how to pull that off. Eventually she resorted to a tad of chaos magic in order to keep them from just dangling, which really was rather appropriate. The large pair of thestral wings slumping over her shoulder were counterbalanced by the thick foam tail she'd slipped over her own poofy mange. Of course she had to spray paint herself and her costume with a special adhesive, before rolling around in colored powder that was a slightly darker shade of pink than her coat. The end result, though, looked satisfactorily fungal, and she was after all a fun gal to be around. And now for the final addition. The party pony reached up to her mane, shaking it forward and all about until her entire face was obscured in a globe of twisted curls. Ha! Nightmare night, here I see. Error. Shift. Cracassin twirled its antennae in confusion. This was not the graceful realm. If anything, it looked to be a home of a flincher, though the spectrum coming from the objects were varied. How had this individual come here? A stretch of its antennae confirmed that no other Migo were in the area, or at least none scenting. Something was disturbing. The idea of something being utterly wrong, of course, was laughable. No Migo would ever submit to the idea that something shouldn't exist, because by existing it obviously should. But disturbing was a reasonable translation to the concept now fluttering through Krakasin's mind. Being alone, save for flinchers, it could possibly handle a small group, but the surroundings indicated a large number, and the lower vibrations did nothing to reassure it. With a flick of its wings, Krakasin glided to the top of the room, skittering out a convenient window and peering. Amur-Auric was above, although going by the plant life obviously this world has a flare sphere as well. What confused the Migo even more, though, were the flinchers wandering below, more like flincher livestock in form, though obviously as intelligent as the flinchers and with more than a little etheric manipulation. At the very least they were not looking for it. Not enough information. Krakasin decided to remain unseen for now, listening and watching. Asterisk. Twilight awoke the day before Nightmare Night. Well, this is different. Feels like a standard loop, but why start this late? She checked her loop memories more carefully and, finding nothing amiss, she began replanning her costume. As much as she loved her Star Swirl costume, it was time for something more fun, especially if she could pass off an ascension as temporary spell work. Hopefully, if she was lucky, Rarity was awake and she would be able to get some help with a temporary coat, mane, and tail dye. Her own spell work tended to last longer than she really wanted. Asterisk. Celestia shook her head in confusion. She recognized the Everfree Forest, but she didn't remember any towns this well established so near her end. Luna's castle. Additionally, from the pumpkins scattered around, it was harvest time. She frowned as she recognized the silhouettes of Nightmare Moon pinned in the windows. We thought we'd told our little ponies not to slander Luna like that. She paused as she passed a mirror. What had happened to her mane? It was still its normal, desperately soft pink, but why was it cut so strangely? She looked like a librarian, though it did look pretty good with the stripes her mane was beginning to develop as she overworked her magic, raising both her own sun and Luna's moon. Wait. Her connection with the moon was gone. She glanced up at the rising orb and felt a pang of worry. Lulu's back? I've got to find her before. Sister. Celestia spun around, and her heart caught in her throat. Luna was back, and so much taller than, wait, Luna had a full-blown aura in her mane? What? Luna's gaze showed her own confusion. Twilight Sparkle? Your Nightmare Night costume is most splendid, but I would have thought you'd have sent us a letter if you'd ascended. She chuckled fondly, much as Celestia herself had when one of her little ponies had done something both amusing and amazing. Come, now, I'm sure Tia will be flattered when we show her. And so proud that you did it without help. Luna? What's going on? Who's Twilight Sparkle? Luna's good cheer evaporated into concern. Something is amiss. Asterisk. Celestia quailed at the changes all around her. All of their little ponies were deeply bowing to her and her sister and the tall form approaching. Mother. Her heart thrilled, and then stilled as the motherly alicorn approached and she saw her own cutie mark. She began panicking and adjusted the element of magic on her brow. I've been thrust into the future? I mean, obviously, I get back where I belong, or there wouldn't be a future to come to. Twilight, my faithful student. What a flattering Nightmare Night cost, are those wings real? All right, who's this Twilight every pony keeps saying I am, my daughter? I mean how, if future me is that tall, how'd I find both the time and the stallion to have a foal? She couldn't help noticing the meaningful glance future Celestia shared with future Luna. Your Highnesses. A guard strode in, bearing a filialicorn on his back. Something is turning ponies into their Nightmare Night costumes. Celestia and her older self both turned and sent their magic to examine the filly. Their golden auras commingled, startling her elder self. Whatever has affected this filly seems to have applied atomic cascade resonance via similarity to the paper cone she'd originally had for her costume. More disturbing to me is the fact I can tell her regalia was originally yellow painted cardboard, but it's now orichalcum. The thaumic energy costs must be immense just for one chew alone. Elder Celestia regained her composure, as Luna was keeping the transformed filly entertained. Alfalfa monster, Luna, really? She shook her head regally. I'm frankly more worried about you though. My initial scan tells me that a similar effect is on you, but only to the degree of coat and mane dye being made real. Younger Celestia grimaced. My plan to get away from the nobles would have worked if they hadn't knocked my hat off. No Ponei would seriously believe a princess would be that pink. Cadance strode in, looking every inch an empress. Have I arrived at a bad time? Younger Celestia boggled. Oh come on. I can't believe what made me look ridiculous looks great on her. Who is she anyway? Asterisk. Luna looked between the two alicorns of the day, one true and the other ensorcelled. Tia. Yes, Lulu. They both replied. Luna grit her teeth and attempted the calming exercise her niece Cadance had shown her. She raised her hoof to her petrol and took in a deep breath before exhaling and pushing her annoyance away. She then pointed at her actual sister. For convenience's sake, I think that I'll call you Tia. She turned her hoof to the younger Celestia. And I'll call you Sully. Do not look at me like that, at least I'm not calling you son but. Asterisk. Oh, this will be so much fun. Letting out a barely audible squeal, Fluttershy finished putting on her wig. The rabbit beside her made some snuffling noises. Oh, don't be such a spoil sport, Mr. Angel Bunny. Barely containing her elation which, in combination with the timid Pegasus, meant she smiled openly, Fluttershy pulled a druid's charm out of her subspace pocket and affixed it inside a midnight blue painted cone. And with this, I can even make my horn seem to glow when I am using a spell. Angel gave her a sidelong stare and stamped a foot. No, I promise. Only a few half stares and some fog or creeping vines. Lifting her mane out of her face with one wing, she fastened the fake horn to her forehead with the other. It's not like I. For a moment, everything seemed to stop, as if the universe itself was taking a deep breath. What is this madness? Why are we not where we sensed our sister? Nightmare Moon whipped her head around to get her bearings. You there? Tell us where this here place is. Now. Angel Bunny looked into his friend's eyes. Never having seen her frenzied like this, he did the only thing he remembered how to do. He ran. Humph. Turning around to the mirror in front of her, Nightmare Moon looked herself over. It seems not only our magical powers have been diminished by 1,000 years of banishment. And in truth, her midnight blue coat seemed dull, the coloration off, like it was mixed with a bit of yellow, and her mane had lost much of its sparkle. Well, it is of no consequence. Once we find our dear sister, we shall be the unchallenged ruler of Equestria. Ah ha 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 ha. What animals there had been left in Fluttershy's cabin made a break for it. The Mare of the Moon turned up her nose. Ungrateful boors. Now, where would our sister hide? Concentrating, she could feel the magic running through her, and then wink out. What in Tartarus? Trying to turn into mist, she charged up, her horn glowing brightly, and then sputtering out. We demand that thou workest. But again, all that happened was that her horn briefly glowed, after which nothing happened. Nightmare Moon's left eye twitched. Then she got a hold of herself and a confident smirk spread across her face. Impressive, dear Tia, we shall give thee that at least. Turning to the door of the house she seemed to be in, the Mare of Darkness started cantering forward. But this shall not save thee. With a sinister laugh, she left the cabin and started moving toward the illuminated town in the distance. Asterisk. Honestly, I don't see why you're complaining. Rarity swished her cape to the side as she sidestepped a young foal. You're fashionable and terrifying. The Pegasus grumbled, her bandaged wings fluttering slightly as she checked the exotic chest plate she wore. It's just a little bit confining. I thought I'd get looser wrap. Ya do pull off Cleopatra look pretty well, though. Applejack smirked, her teeth unnaturally sharp. Ya sure ya didn't have ancestors in the Sphinx Empire or nothing? It's been a couple of loops since I checked my family tree. Rainbow Dash shrugged. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. I'll do some research, later, ish. Well, I'm sure my dear Spiky Wikey would be happy to help with that. Spike smiled, nuzzling Rarity affectionately. Whatever you say, mistress. The unicorn blushed. Spike. We're in public. Sorry, just getting into character. Applejack gave a saucy whistle, which set Rainbow off giggling. Rarity shot them an annoyed look before turning back to the dragon. In that case, I might just have to suck your blood, dear. That got a smile out of Spike. Your wish is my command, mistress. He managed to keep a straight face as Rarity turned red, before suddenly cracking up. All right. I'll lay off. Besides, I promised Twilight I'd see who she dressed up as. I'll catch up with you gals later. With a wave of his shackled claws, the dragon walked away. I still, can't believe you got him to dress up like that, Rainbow gasped, panting for breath. I don't know what you were thinking. Oh, I am pretty dang sure she was thinking 'bout how sexy he'd look as a genie, Applejack commented. Ha. Rarity rolled her eyes, although her face was flushing uncontrollably. Honestly, Applejack, just because you decided to relive the pet loop doesn't mean you need to be so feral. The farm pony waved a false paw. You're right. I shouldn't leap on them sort of comments just cause I am a wild animal. Her smile widened. But you're just giving me so much opportunity. And then the world shifted. Asterisk. Lady Belle would have recoiled if she'd been a lesser being. As it was, her muzzle merely crinkled in disgust at the foul creature in front of her. What are you doing in my presence? The feral creature growled and raised its hackles, clearly disliking her as much as she disliked it. Then a third presence made itself known. Yeshivabi? Ma aunt? Ilaikta, ma hik ana akulu. Hey, guys? What are you? Hold on, what the heck am I saying? Both of them turned to a rotted, decrepit creature covered in bandages and golden armor. Lady Belle raised an eyebrow. And what manner of being are you? Dressed as death, yet I feel great power. Yahaya al Nadrat, Kamatala Monlay. Kumt biha hedha alzadi. Elam amal aljad, mahik ana akulu. Oh come on Rarity, you know me. You made this costume. Seriously, what the heck am I saying? The strange creature winced as the wolf pony snarled at her. Lady Belle shook her head at the foreign babble. So long as you do not interfere with me or mine, I have no quarrel with you. Her eyes narrowed as she turned to the orange beast. This one, however, is a plague on the night. If it does not submit, I will be forced to teach it respect. Asterisk. Derpy donned her costume, all 5 bags of it. It was, in her opinion, devastatingly clever. By using common household items as garments, she refuted the bourgeoisie preconceptions of what garments could be, forcing ponies to take a hard, unflinching look at the role clothing played in a society of habitual nudists. It transcended the base fright of ghouls and goblins, instead presenting the viewer with a deeper, more existential terror, the kind that only the satirist could inflict. Dinky was going as a fire pony. She'd certainly gotten enough experience when her mom got too high concept in the kitchen for her own good. Derpy waved as Dinky joined her friends. Have fun, Muffin. Don't talk to strangers. Memento mori. A bit grim, perhaps, but nothing kept a filly from crusader-level foolishness like reminding her of her morality. As the herd of sugar-seeking foals galloped off, the world twisted for a moment. After a moment of ontological confusion, Derpy found herself holding the bag she'd perched atop her mane, except she'd never written anything on it. The paper was supposed to be a blank canvas on which onlookers could project their insecurities. Instead, scribbled in what looked like correction fluid and smelled like marzipan, were the words "I don't get it. Philistine." Derpy threw the bag to the ground in disgust. Or tried to. It was a paper bag. "Excuse me, ma'am." "Yes." Derpy looked up from her discarded headgear only to stop halfway. A tiny fire pony stood before her. Not a filly in a cheap costume, but one outfitted in half-scale replicas of rescue worker gear, complete with smudges of soot and the smell of smoke. "Could you tell me where I am?" asked the pint-sized impossibility. "Last I remember, I was getting back to the station, and now everything's huge." Derpy fainted. She would later argue it was the only rational course of action. Asterisk. The Cutie Mark Crusaders were making their own arrangements for Nightmare Night. They had gathered in the treehouse and were getting into their costumes. "I wish we could have done the 3 pony leaders, not the advisors," Sweetie Belle said, adjusting her cloak. "Rarity could have helped me make an awesome Princess Platinum costume." "Hey, no way I was doing Chancellor Puddinghead," Apple Bloom shot back, adjusting her hat. "Besides, Diamond Tiara did Princess Platinum last year. And Clover the Clever is pretty cool." The unicorn across from her wrinkled her muzzle at the reminder of why she hadn't gone princess. "Humph." Scootaloo looked out from under her crested helmet. "It's okay for you two, Clover the Clever and Smart Cookie are both great characters. I'm stuck being Private Pansy." Apple Bloom shook her head. "You do know that Fluttershy was playing her a lot more timidly than most versions? She was Commander Hurricane's bat pony, and effectively his aide." Scootaloo's eyes grew distant, reimagining Private Pansy with a black cloak and cowl, silhouetted against a skyline. "I wonder if it's too late to put together a Thestral costume." "Wait, Commander Hurricane was a guy." "That's what I heard." Apple Bloom replied. "Twilight was talking with Miss Cheerilee about doing our own Hearth's Warming Eve pageant as a school play and I overheard. Seems doing the play at Canterlot last year got her interested in the story." "Well, we've got Nightmare Night to get through first," Sweetie Belle exclaimed. "The fire of friendship may live in our hearts, but I'm more interested in lots of candy living in my stomach." There was a ripple of discontinuity, which none of the trio noticed. "Pansy, Cookie? What just happened?" Clover the Clever shook her head to clear it. "For that matter, how did we get here, wherever here is?" "Well, here looks to be some sort of wood cabin, up in a tree unless I miss my guess." "Well, used to. I'd have said Earth Pony, excepting the fine paper some pony used for that scrawled map on the wall. And whatever happened turned us into fillies and messed with our memories. I remember, stuff, the Fumble Winter, the Exodus, fighting the Wendigos, our meetings to hammer out the Alliance, trying to organize things and get the new towns like Mainhat and that mining camp in the Canterlots Mountains set up. But when I try to remember how we got here, I draw a blank." Lieutenant Pansy was already checking the windows and door, cautiously, as was her nature. She hadn't said anything, just went to work making sure no pony was eavesdropping. Having completed the circuit, she came over to the other two. "I believe the area is secure, from eavesdroppers at least." Clover's horn sparked and spluttered, then glowed feebly. "Arg! Whatever they did affected my magic. It's barely active. Whatever effect aged us, it altered our abilities to match our new ages. But there aren't any scrying spells in the immediate area, that much I can tell." "You thinking what I'm thinking, Pansy?" Smart Cookie asked. Compared to Commander Hurricane, or as the trio liked to call him in private, the Great Bag of Wind, Pansy might seem diffident. But that retiring nature concealed a first-class brain, skilled in tactics and strategy. Hence the name Pansy, which meant thought in an old dialect. It's safe to assume that whoever, or whatever did this did not have our best interests at heart. Then we're all in agreement. Clover nodded. Though how would require a group of unicorns working in concert to cast such a powerful spell. It's possible Earth Pony magic could affect our growth, but our memories? Only unicorn magic could do that. Smart Cookie gave a deep sigh and started pacing, as she often did when talking through a problem. Chancellor Puddinghead anticipated some sort of reaction from some of the old guard unicorn nobles when the Council of Tribes put forward the newest proposals, but not this. If only forging the fire of friendship had burned away the old enmities along with the Wendigos. But it isn't that easy. The great mass of all three tribes look to us as their saviors, and the ones who keep the Wendigos at bay. They are willing to follow our lead and let the fire of friendship into their hearts, or at least lay the kindling. But in too many hearts there is only the empty hearth of despair, or a hearth choked with the bitter ashes of hatred, or the bright flames of greed and envy, leaving no fuel for friendship to ignite. Smarty, you're preaching to the choir, Clover interjected, to stop her friend's familiar rant. Smart Cookie was the politician of the trio, but that sometimes lead to speech-making even when with her friends. Take us out of the political equation, and the old power blocks would have a chance to restore their power. Too many of the older, more powerful unicorns and Pegasi find the new uppity Earth ponies sit ill with them, as well as cordially hating each other. Even some Earth ponies would be happy to see us gone, as they don't want equality, they want their own shot at being top of the pile, at vengeance for the generations of serfdom to the other races. So even though you say it was unicorns that did the deed, the masterminds behind it could be from any or all of the three races. They might hate each other, but they might be willing to ally to stop us, figuring to diddle the other two later. I know Commander Hurricane isn't happy about the alliance, but I've managed to keep him sweet so far by telling him how his decisive leadership makes him admired by the troops. Pansy got a thoughtful look. But if they wanted to remove us, why not just kill us? Why simply de-age us, but leave us with our memories? Maybe they made a mistake. Clover said excitedly. Think about it. Even if they wiped our memories back to our filly days, the bond of our friendship would still be there. Star Swirl is certain that bonds can exist between ponies, even if the memories that created them are absent. So they could have us hidden away somewhere, brought up as friends from foalhood, and all the while our friendship would provide the power to keep the Wendigos away. They'd have the advantages of the fire of friendship without our inconvenient presence in the political arena. However, the friendship bond between us may have shielded our long-term memories, the memories of us becoming friends, and everything connected to it. The spell probably suppressed them and wiped out our short-term memory, but our true selves came bubbling back up after a time. This is probably some waypoint on the way to wherever we were being sent. That's probably why there's no guard. 3 amnesiac foals aren't likely to go anywhere. So, escape, intelligence gathering, and then we hunt down whoever did this. Pansy said, looking uncharacteristically fierce. We can count on Chancellor Puddinghead for aid. Smart Cookie stated. If we can get to him without tipping our hoof. It sounds like a plan to me. Clover said in agreement. If we can get a message to my mentor, I'm sure he can help us reverse the aging spell. I know for certain that he wouldn't be a party to this scheme. They headed out of the treehouse and Pansy tried to fly down, only to find that her wings didn't work properly. The best she could manage was a steep glide. She grimaced as she landed heavily, and called up to the other two. Clever. They didn't want me flying to get help if my filly self panicked. Clover joined her on the ground. I saw a town from the balcony. There seemed to be a lot of lights for this late in the evening, colored ones too. I suggest we go there first. We can get lost in the mass of ponies, especially if, as I suspect, there's some sort of festival going on. Well, we won't get any older standing here, Smart Cookie said, then face hooved. You know what I mean. The mistake was probably deliberate, but it still made her companions smile, which was almost certainly the idea. She wasn't called Smart Cookie for nothing. With their spirits lifted, the three trooped down into Ponyville. **** The cream-colored alicorn extended herself out of the fetal ball position and ambled over to the nearest couch. Get a hold of yourself, Lauren. I'm sure being a naked pony is some sort of strange dream or vision quest I'm having due to the days of brainstorming to find a way to reboot that old cartoon without turning ponies into superheroes. The mayor glanced out of the window only to see an odd pony agilely hopping along the rooftops. It was dressed in a costume that could only be described as a fusion between Batman's and Darkwing Duck's. You're not helping, she shouted ineffectually at what could only be her subconscious delusion. So even if this is just some crazy dream, it does feel very real. Oh wait, the alicorn looked around frantically before spotting a discarded newspaper. She rushed over, picked it up, and stared at the articles. Yes. I can't read any of this. You're not supposed to be able to read in your dream, right? Or was that just a plot of a movie I saw? The point is that I'm not crazy. Lauren smiled. Then the smile faded with a realization. Okay, I'm going to take a mulligan on the whole talking to myself thing that I've been doing, but I'm still not crazy. Right? She asked a small alligator that had crawled up onto a couch cushion. Said alligator just blinked asymmetrically and slowly opened up his mouth, which was lacking any teeth whatsoever. What do you know? You're probably just a symbol of my unfounded fears or something like that. Well, I'll show you, you toothless fear gator. I'll head right on outside and into this dream world. The alicorn swiftly trotted over to the door and opened it up on complete pandemonium. A group of ponies were battling a mummy pony, a vampire pony, and a werewolf pony. None of them sparkled. Up on a nearby rooftop, a strange but somehow very familiar winged fungal crab creature scuttled across and out of sight. The front door slammed shut. Okay, I can do this. If I can handle screaming Powerpuff Girl fans at a convention, I can do this. Once again the door opened, but this time the alicorn pony stepped out into the chaos. Wait, you can do anything you want in a dream. That means... Lauren grinned as she flew upwards, her wings flapping instinctively. I take it all back. Flying is awesome. This is the best dream, well, the second best naked dream ever. Higher she flew. There were enough Pegasi and other flying creatures in the air, that she wasn't noticed or stared at all that much. The alicorn sat down in a peaceful corner of an orchard, near a child's tree house. That peace was interrupted when 3 fillies emerged slowly from the surrounding trees and approached her. We mean you no harm. Who are you and what manner of pony has wings and a horn? Said the small wingless, hornless pony cautiously. Whatever reactions the 3 fillies were expecting out of the strange winged unicorn, a girlish squeal wasn't one of them. Asterisk. As the 3 got closer, Smart Cookie looked down at her clothes and up at the other 2 and rubbed her chin with a hoof. Hey, I'm wondering if we shouldn't disguise ourselves. Change our clothes about in our manies. A Pegasus filly wearing armor is definitely going to attract attention at least. A lot of the younger ponies are going around without anything at all, now that we no longer have to protect ourselves from the cold of Fumble Winter. I've done it a time or two myself. Clover mused. It felt odd the first time, but it's quite liberating once you've gotten used to it. Our emblems are not well known, but if there's someone from the conspiracy in town, they may recognize them. Do you have enough magic in that horn to disguise them? That much I can do. I only have the power for cantrips, but I know quite a few that could be useful, including a cosmetic spell to change fur color. It won't hide them for long, but it'll do the job. Pansy was already removing her kirtle, but stopped and said in a strained voice, I don't think that will be necessary. She showed her bare flank. The other 2 immediately checked their own hindquarters to the same result. Smart Cookie gave a strangled gasp, while Clover looked dumbstruck, and stuttered, but that's impossible. Even if we were de-aged, we still have our memories, our knowledge. An emblem is connected to the pony's spirit, not their body. I helped Star Swirl do the research. This must be a side effect of the memory spell, but it would have to be very powerful to affect our souls as well as our memories. Another thing to fix, but at least it solves our immediate problem, Pansy finally managed. But I think we should wait until we can see the local ponies directly before we get changed. Speaking of which, this orchard seems awfully large. Smart Cookie nodded, focusing on that to overcome the shock. True, I don't remember any this large or well developed in our latest survey, and look at the spacing of the trees, they were planted, not a natural orchard some pony found. They reached the edge of the orchard, and looked out over the town. There were yells and screams, and the impression of a lot of running about. Maybe we won't need to change clothing, it sounds like a wild party down there. More like a riot, Pansy pointed at the sky. Look at all the Pegasi in the sky, but why aren't they in armor? And what is that? Smart Cookie's eyes widened as something approached, flying down towards the orchard, a Pegasus as big as any they'd ever seen and oddly proportioned. Take cover. They did so and observed it as it landed, which only increased their confusion. It had an impressive horn, and an ink bottle and quill as an emblem. A winged unicorn. Clover said quietly, looking incredulous. Pansy smirked and whispered. Or a Pegasus with a horn. Or okay, I've got nothing. Smart Cookie quipped, but keeping her voice as low as the other two. At least she doesn't look hostile. And I can't imagine any scenario where something like that would be allied with a conspiracy to keep the tribes separate. We need information, and she may be able to provide it. They emerged from their hiding place and approached slowly, Smart Cookie in the lead. We mean you no harm. Who are you and what manner of pony has wings and a horn? Whatever reactions the three fillies were expecting out of the strange winged unicorn, a girlish squeal wasn't one of them. You three are adorable. You must be the dream representations of Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup. The fillies looked at each other in confusion. The Earth Pony spoke up again, we do not know any pony with those names. Lauren thought for a moment and asked, do you know any ponies named Firefly, Posy, Sparkler, Surprise, Twilight, or Applejack? The three fillies shook their heads, up until the name Applejack came up. Yes, we know of an Applejack. She's an Earth Pony who runs the Falling Apple Tavern and Inn. Makes great homemade liquor. But the rest of the names you mentioned are not familiar. And as I said, we have never seen a pony like yourself. The night shall rule forever, said a dark pony with a dark flowing mane, wings, and a horn as she flew by. Unlike Lauren's horn, this pony's horn was sputtering ineffectually. Why won't thy work right? What insidious curse did my own sister do to my magic? No matter, I shall triumph despite this handicap. The dark pony said triumphantly right before she flew into a tree. Ow! I had believed that I was more able at flying than this. Truly, this is a fell curse Celestia has afflicted upon me. Rubbing her forehead, the dark pony slowly flew away. Lauren pointed at the direction the other alicorn was heading. The three fillies looked at each other before Smart Cookie answered, we have never seen that pony before. I don't care about that, Lauren said, is she trademarked? I think I just found the first season villain for my new show. You are a writer, a playwright? Clover asked, I thought you might be from your emblem. But I do not think that pony was marked for a trade. A crescent moon emblem often implies some pony skilled in magic, but she had the look of a Pegasus warrior, and we heard her curse her lack of magical power. What's more, it sounds like she was using that modern slang that young ponies are affecting, badly. Even I know it should be thou, not thy. Pansy snorted. Any warrior that clumsy wouldn't last a week. But we should be talking to the horned Pegasus who didn't fly off, Stratus. We need a better name for ponies like her since they seem to be popping up all over the place. Alicorn. Clover suggested. She has traits of all of us, after all. Maybe she has a name for her race as well as herself. Smart Cookie suggested. Maybe we should introduce ourselves first. I am Smart Cookie, advisor to Chancellor Puddinghead, leader of the Earth Ponies. The other two agreed. Clover the Clever, apprentice to Star Swirl the Bearded End, a tutor and advisor to Princess Platinum of the Unicorns. Lieutenant Pansy, aide-de-camp to Commander Hurricane of the Pegasi. And I'm usually taller than this. We all are, Smart Cookie added. We were full-grown mares, but some fearful curse has reduced us to fillyhood. She examined the alicorn's face for signs of recognition or understanding, and saw none. We recently forged an alliance between our three races, but there are members of all three who fear change and the loss of their existing power, and would return our peoples to three mutually suspicious, feuding tribes. They would consider you an abomination. So we may have common cause. May we know your name? Asterisk. May we know your name? Said the precocious little earth filly, Smart Cookie. The inner girl within Lauren almost squealed at the cuteness exuded by the three little ponies in front of her. Sure. My name is Lauren Faust. It's great to meet you three. This is turning out to be the best dream I've had in a long time. Although when I'm not dreaming, I don't look like this. She gestured to her new body. I'm human. Private Pansy and Smart Cookie looked confused, but Clever Clover spoke up. A human? Strange hairless minotaur apes from another dimension? Those are a myth. The Earth Pony and Pegasus looked at their friend. You're an absolute mine of useless information, aren't you, Clover? Smart Cookie asked. I enjoy the reading of fanciful tales and mythical beasts in my spare time, Clever Clover defended herself, then grinned. Besides, it's not always useless, case in point. One for her side, Pansy quipped, and Smart Cookie shrugged, rolling her eyes. It doesn't mean I seriously think they exist though, Clover added. Lauren snorted in amusement. The magical unicorn doesn't believe in humans. Oh, you should read some of the stories written about them, Clover said. Ponies have claimed to have dreams, visions of other worlds, other times where these humans exist. Others believe that there are places in the world where the local magical field is so strong, it creates a weak point between different dimensions, pools, fracture planes of crystal, surfaces that reflect the light of other worlds. However, no pony has ever shown them to exist, though admittedly such things would be unstable. That doesn't stop the stories though. Humans rarely seem to have magic, but they use tools even more than Earth ponies. Wooden ships that sail through the roughest seas, armies in Pegasus-like armor fighting ones and skins, or humans that wear unicorn-like plate, and ride horses who don't seem to object to the practice. Villages of mud brick or cities of stone. I've even seen the writings of this one mad stallion who claimed there was a world where every pony had a human counterpart. She shook her head. I studied the stories when I got a scholarship to the academy, before Star Swirl took me as his apprentice. I can see where this is going, the alicorn said, but I can't write another high school drama, even one about a magic school. It's cliché, and after battling the kind of horrors they did in Generation 1, trying to master gym class seems like a vast demotion. Oh, you wouldn't know any horrible monstrosities for ponies to fight? Good villains make for good stories. So you are a playwright, Smart Cookie said. If you are in need of monstrous villains, I can tell you about the Wendigos. The evil spirits of cold and hatred that brought about Fumble Winter. Only by standing united, did the three pony tribes manage to drive them off. Lauren thought for a moment. So, unkillable spirits of cold that could only be driven away? Nah, that's definitely too much like the Dementors from Harry Potter. I guess I'll stick with using that silly bad dream pony. Smart Cookie looked ready to explode, but Pansy put a hoof on her shoulder, forestalling a tirade. Calm yourself. You heard her, she thinks this whole world is a dream she's having, she doesn't understand what we went through, you more than many. Smart Cookie growled. Having the monsters that caused all that suffering, who almost killed us, dismissed so lightly. Come, we have a mission to accomplish. She's clearly not interested in aiding us, and probably has no useful intelligence on the situation down there, so we had best leave her to her daydreams, and get on with finding some actual help. Clover the Clever had put a hoof of her own on Smart Cookie's shoulder, but had turned back to the alicorn with a thoughtful expression on her face. Before we go, could I do a magical scan of you? It is just that I have never seen a pony like yourself, with both wings and a horn. I assure you, it is harmless. Magical scan. That piqued Lauren's interest. Sure, go ahead. A faint glow formed around Lauren, causing her to twitch. Hey, that tickles. The faint glow swiftly cut off. I do apologize, ma'am. It seems I was less than careful with my tests as I could not believe the result of the first one. Clover said in her most respectful tone of voice. Is she a threat? The Pegasus spoke for the first time. Pansy, this alicorn, Lauren Faust, is several orders of magnitude more powerful than my mentor, Star Swirl. If she wanted to, she could rotate the planet just by herself. Smart Cookie spoke up, astounded, but that takes hundreds of unicorns working together. Yes. And actually, if what my scans tell me is correct, she has unicorn, Pegasus, and Earth pony magic all in harmonious resonance. If she so desired, I think she could rearrange the solar system. The three fillies slowly looked over at the smiling, happy alicorn. Well, this world is my dream. It makes sense that I could control the sun and the moon and the planets. Lauren swished her tail around in a complex circular pattern, and then stared at it. Oh my gosh! Did you know my tail is fully prehensile? Check this out! The smiling alicorn bent over to her side and promptly stuck the end of her straight brownish tail right into her left ear. Private Pansy gave a sigh, and to top it off, it appears that she is completely insane. And that's why we can't leave her behind. You heard her, we're a dream, a fantasy, with no consequences for whatever she does. She could pull the moon out of the sky, or fling the sun away beyond recovery playing with her powers, or just by accident. She has to come with us, so I can teach her at least the basics of controlling her power, Cover said quietly to the other two. Smart Cookie gritted her teeth, then schooled her expression into pleasantness. Ma'am, or do you prefer to be called Lauren? Clover has offered to show you how to use that horn on your noggin. She's an amazing mage. And a capable teacher. All we ask is that you come with us, let me and Lieutenant Pansy deal with anything threatening, and not use your magic unless Clover approves it. I can do magic. Lauren grinned. This keeps getting better and better. The group started down into town, with Clover going through a very brief explanation of how to focus energy in a horn, and shape it. Every unicorn can do telekinesis, it's practically instinctive, and light spells are almost as simple. For more complex normally used spells, a matrix or pattern that embodies the most efficient way to shape the magical energies. However, if you have enough power, you can brute force it just by willing the effect to happen. Though don't you try it yet, with your power you could hurt some pony by accident. Now, watch me. She slowly built up energy in her short horn, and lifted a pebble from the side of the track, carrying it with her. You see what I did? Now you try it. Lauren remembered the tingling sensation, and tried to build it up in her horn, as instructed. She picked out a pebble and willed it to rise. There was a whip crack and a vertical shooting star as the pebble shot up, a sheath of superheated plasma forming around it and reached escape velocity within a few hundred feet. Oops! Lauren blushed. Clover face hooved. We've got a long way to go. Asterisk. Curse our sister for robbing us of our magic. Fighting her sputtering magic, and still nursing a terrible headache, Nightmare Moon reached the town well, more like a hamlet, and after checking her bearings, made her way toward the town center. Oh well, we are sure it will suffice for these peasants. Just as she was going to approach for landing, her eyes fell upon her sister. "'Tis thou!" she cried. "Tia, thou shalt pay for this!" Nightmare Moon swooped down from the sky like a bird of prey. Celestia's ears drooped and her expression turned to horror. El Lulu. Backing away, she was transfixed by the dark alicorn before her. Be bulletin, but I banished you away. The elder Celestia as well as Luna, who had been talking to the Sun Princess smaller version when the alicorn of the night arrived, looked on, utterly perplexed by the scene unfolding before them. Because, however you looked at it, this impromptu piece was truly strange. Ha! The mare of the moon stamped her hoof. Didst thou think it could hold us forever? Luna leaned over to her sister and whispered, Did I really sound like this? Tia, the elder Celestia, nodded. No. The smaller Celestia burst out, then caught herself. No. I was hoping for you to return someday, but... She trailed off. But what, dearest sister? Nightmare scoffed. Thou didst even lock away our magical abilities. We demand that thou dost return them. Abilities? The other mare's ears pricked up. I did not do a thing to them. Lie not, foul trickster. The midnight blue alicorn reared up on her hind legs and stomped back onto the ground. Then she lit her horn, which flickered briefly and then sputtered out. Does our magic look functional to thee? Tia stepped in. Now, girls. WH. Interrupt not, FO. Nightmare Moon's pupils became as small as pinpricks. Tia. Oh dear. Luna face hooved. Asterisk. Sully tensed, and frowned at what her senses were telling her. Nightmare Moon was a Pegasus, despite having a horn. The overlay spell that Tia had shown her reminded her of showed an etheric echo of a Pegasus with some sort of odd charm under a false horn. It was a little fascinating how the charm interacted with Pegasus magic to produce. She shook her head. Things were far too confusing to let herself go off on a tangent like that. She grit her teeth. Sister, please, more has gone wrong than you know. Silence. Nightmare Moon bellowed in the royal cantorlet voice, and Sully felt herself beginning to shrink under the intensity of her fallen sister's gaze. And that was when, deep down in the unconscious reaches of her being, she realized who her opponent was. Steeling herself, the Diarch of the Sun took a deep, calming breath, and stared right back. Her gaze was enough to force an entire Griffin army into submission, yet it simply washed over Nightmare Moon as if it was nothing. That's quite enough, Nimmy, Luna said, and suddenly a wing came down over the Mare of Darkness. The false Nightmare Moon stiffened under the embrace. Nimmy. She spluttered. Half turning around, she glared at her alter ego. How darest thou call us pet names? Simple. Giving a smirk, Luna pulled her closer and waved a hoof at her sister. While Tia and I have our suspicions, we're not quite sure who you are underneath this spell, but I am at least extending you the same courtesy we are extending to Twilight Sparkle while she thinks she is Celestia. Now, please, calm yourself and look around. What do you see? Calmly, Luna pointed out the decorations and that Nightmare Night was as much a celebration of the night as it was of fear. Nightmare Moon felt unsure. I just wanted them to love me. Luna gave a motherly smile as she said, they do, and I am pretty sure that they love who you are underneath as well. The Mare of the Moon blinked. Princess Celestia. Fluttershy turned her head. Princess Luna. She then examined her costume. What happened? Sully gawped. Then she started to smile. Hey! So there is a way. Fluttershy's eyes hardened. We happened. And we do not intend to leave, yet. The smaller sun goddess's ears drooped. Or not. Asterisk. Cadance sat back on her haunches in shock. She'd been intending to visit Ponyville on Nightmare Night anyway this loop, just to see what it was like, but Twilight thinking she was Aunt Celestia was a bit much. As she numbly watched the attempted battle between Sully and Nimmy, she was interrupted by a gentle nudge at her fetlocks. She turned her head and found herself looking into a Filialicorn's bright eyes. Your Imperial Highness? Would you care for some tea? Cadance smiled. The best babysitter ever trademark was on the case. Asterisk. Krakasin glided through the darkness, its wings humming quietly with etheric energy as it observed the world below. There was a surprisingly large number of other flying creatures, but so far it had avoided being seen. Or the other flyers didn't care. Either way was acceptable. Suddenly its antennae burned, and it landed on a roof near a massive tree. With a quiet chitter, Krakasin peered over the edge of the roof. A collection of the odd flinchers were standing and conversing. Each one had a pair of wings and a stiff extension extending from the middle of their scan prods. More importantly, though, the sheer amount of etheric power flowing through their bodies except, oddly, the black one was enough to level a planet. Had Krixin had a concept of actual fear, it would have been utterly terrified. As it was merely cautious. Clearly one of them had to be responsible for transferring the Migo to this world, or perhaps it was that other major etheric power source Krakasin could feel coming up behind it. The fungus turned, observing the massive, manacled monster rising on a column of pure ether. That it did not wish to anger. Where is my mistress? The creature thundered. Where is Rarity? Realizing that a confrontation between two massive sources of power was not something it wanted to get involved in, Krakasin scuttled to the other edge of the roof and glided away. Asterisk. You know, I was expecting a song cue back there. Lauren said, disappointed, as she held a boulder twice her size, and a ball of water from a convenient well in the air to either side of her. After several smaller rocks had achieved orbit, Clover had finally gotten her to tone her telekinesis down, by giving her something heavy so she needed less fine control. All three ponies looked at her oddly, but Clover was the one who asked, a song, cue? Only a few unicorns have the ability to focus their magic through music. It's a rare and powerful gift, and your emblem would surely show an affinity for it if you could. Lauren looked puzzled. Okay, what's an emblem? I heard you talking about it earlier. Oh, you mean my cutie mark? That's what some of the younger ponies are calling it nowadays. Smart Cookie said, Spear Shaker and his crowd, the same bunch that are coming up with that slang that idiot from earlier was spouting. Now that's a fun idea, Shakespeare as a teenage rebel. Lauren mused. How do you know of emblems if you don't know of this world? Pansy asked, slightly suspicious. We've got stories about something similar at home. Cutie marks show a pony's special talent. Partly right. EMB, cutie marks show how a pony has decided to express their special talent. For example, my talent is learning and studying magic, and my cutie mark is a four-leafed clover with a book resting on it. Clovers, especially the four-leafed kind, are magically powerful reagents and can enhance pretty much any spell or potion. I received it when I became Starswirl's apprentice. It represents how I can help enhance magic through study and research. If I'd taken the instructor position at the academy, as I loved teaching almost as much, my mark might have been different. Oh! Can I see it? Lauren exclaimed. Clover sagged slightly. Unfortunately, these de-aged bodies have no cutie marks. I still don't understand it. Our memories and experiences are intact, so that decision, that expression of our souls should be too. Where ahead? Pansy pointed up ahead where they could see a scene of chaos across the bridge that lead into the town square. Several ponies in outlandish clothing were running around, both adults and foals, and there was a lot of yelling and screaming. The hay. Smart Cookie frowned. What are those things? Things out of old mare's tales. Clover replied analytically. A vampony, a wolf lycanthrope, and I'm not even sure what that thing in bandages is, but it looks like some old legend of undead creatures, and other ponies all mixed in. There's too much happening. Pansy was taking a more tactical approach. From the way they're placed, I think the vampony and the werewolf were fighting each other and the other undead is trying to keep them apart. I think the other ponies are just under hoof, too scared to get out of the way. Well, some ponies got to stop them before any pony gets hurt. Smart Cookie exclaimed, and started forward. Wait! Pansy's voice had a snap of command, and Smart Cookie froze. None of us are at our normal strength. But Pansy, we can't just do nothing. The Pegasus shook her head. No, but we need a plan. Clover, strengths and weaknesses. If the old legends, Vampani, can't cross running water, shies from magical light, killed by sunlight, staking or beheading. Lycanthropes, regenerate from anything except wolfsbane or silver, but there's a pony trapped inside, not in control of their actions, unlike the other two it's a living creature, could be knocked out. The other undead, magical light again. All three are tougher and faster than any regular pony. Clover, you stay back, support us with cantrips to keep the other two from attacking us while we pony pile them one at a time. Smarty, I need you to hit them low, buck things at them, while I drop in from above. Lauren, stay back here with Clover, your magic is too unreliable for a fight. If only we had some of those things you said. Normally I could summon them without too much trouble, apologized Clover, or transmute your horseshoes to silver temporarily. But you can't, Lauren stated as she gently set down her boulder. However, her massive orb of water was still in the air. You may have been mighty warriors in the past, but right now you are just three little fillies. That means you are not going out there to fight monsters that were made to scare adults. Besides, it seems to be a stalemate from what I can see. The mummy pony is keeping the vampire. Vampony and werewolf pony from attacking each other. It's like better version of that Twilight series. It would have been at least kind of entertaining if Bella was secretly a mummy. That what do you suggest for our course of action, ma'am? Clover asked, having gotten somewhat used to the Alicorn's unidentifiable references. We wait. We watch. If anything tries to attack us, I'll gently throw my water ball at them. How's that for running water, ha? Lauren said to the three little de-aged ponies, before sitting down on the grass. Look, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Even if this is my dream, I should have been a bit more respectful of you three. I used to play with my little pony dolls as a child, I'd stage elaborate adventures, and now I'm in one. Who's to say that dream worlds are any less real than the one we live in? It could be just like in the Sandman books. In any case, I apologize. Clever Clover, Smart Cookie, and Private Pansy looked at each other. Cookie still seemed angry at her tribe's near extinction being dismissed so casually. Pansy was never a pony of many words, and that trait didn't seem to changing soon. Clover spoke up, I accept your apology, ma'am. Just do try to be more careful. I'll try, but it's not that easy. Lauren sighed. It's like someone telling you to take the smallest step you can, but when you try it's never small enough. No one really had anything to say to that. Instead, the three fillies crouched down next to the Alicorn while watching all angles for possible attack. It was quiet for several minutes before Lauren spoke up quietly. I'm glad you girls don't look like my old dolls, though. Instead of being all chubby looking with long muzzles, you're more like sleek pony cat hybrids. Thank you. Clever Clover replied, there is actually a great deal of research and controversy on how we evolved traits more in common with predatory animals like forward-facing eyes and. Not the time for this, Pansy interrupted. There was silence as the four ponies watched the stalemate. The mummy pony was still keeping the other two from fighting while constantly chattering in her strange language, but was getting more exasperated. Other ponies, dressed up in various outfits, gave them a wide berth as they ran around in the pandemonium. I still think this is my dream, Lauren pointed with her hoof to a pony dressed as a dentist who was threatening any other pony she saw with a giant levitating toothbrush. Also, her mane was made of toothpaste. How else can you explain that other than my subconscious telling me I should brush more often? It is an exceptionally odd sight, Smart Cookie admitted, as is that. She pointed to where 2 Viking Pegasus ponies were trading sword strokes with several pirate ponies who were led by a small colt. No band of undisciplined Viking raiders can match up to the dread pirate Pipsqueak and his crew, cried out the high-pitched voice of the pirate captain. The lead Viking mare spoke up, but what if the Viking raiders hired a ninja mercenary? And out of nowhere, a ninja stallion entered the fray. Yet. Lauren stared at this. I got nothing. That was when every pony's attention was drawn to an immense dragon genie which rose up out of the center of town with a mighty roar. The 3 fillies turned towards the Ilicorn. I can't use that, Lauren said calmly as she stared ahead. Dragon Ball did it first. / Halloween Special Part 2. By Saphroneth. Clever Clover just gave a long sigh. You do realize we have no idea what you're talking about. I just wish I could power a translation spell. I want to know what that, mummy, you called it, is saying. For that matter, the town itself doesn't make sense. Smart Cookie nodded. I noticed that too. It looks like an earth pony settlement, but fancied up by unicorns. All the windows are glazed rather than shuttered, the houses have multiple stories and they even have fountains. It looks long established, but nothing in Equestria is yet. We've been here less than a dozen years, but the roads here are all paved, the bridge is well-crafted stone and there are all kinds of fancy decoration, even without those things for whatever festival they were having. I'm more interested in the ponies, Pansy said. The fact that even I don't know what half of the costumes are supposed to be, or the fact that there's unicorns, earth ponies, and Pegasi all mixed in. Clover asked. Both, Pansy replied. Arg. I hate just sitting here and not being able to find out what's going on. Clover fumed. If only I had more power. Wait. She turned back to Lauren, a dawning realization in her eyes. If we could find a safe way to regulate the power flow, you could lend us some of your power. You have the powers of all 3 races in you, and in such quantity that you could empower us and never miss the difference. She started pacing again. The problem is your control. It's getting better, but it wouldn't take much excess to burn us out. Of course, you'd have to agree in the first place. Let me see. Applying Gutterhoof's 4th Noom, the parametric phase variance would modulate the power flow in phase. We'd need some yellow chalk, reversing the polarity of the thermic flow. Would that make it a single stone trapdoor function? T equals hf squared, where h is the harmonic factor and friendship. Adjusting for the incident light level, we could omit the dribbly candles. What on earth is she going about? Lauren asked. Pansy shook her head. She gets like this when she's doing her magic stuff. Just let her be, she'll come up for air soon enough. But if you really can lend us your power, please do so. I don't know how much you've used those wings, but if you have, you must know what it's like for a Pegasus to be grounded. I feel so limited, unable to protect my friends. Likewise. Smart Cookie added. That giant creature seems to be coming closer, and it doesn't look friendly. And a 3/8 Gripply. Clover finished. I've got it. We use a triune ritual diagram, but we reverse it. We create a set of linked stones at the nodes for Pansy and Smart Cookie, and I stay at the 3rd node to act as the control element. Since I won't be channeling the power directly, I can avoid being overloaded. I can even help you control your power. She noticed the approaching genie. Oh. No time for more lessons, I'll need help setting it up, and you need some spells of your own. I can copy some of my own knowledge into your mind. It'll only work for a half hour before they fade, but at least you'll be able to defend yourself. Drop the water in the river. Lauren still wasn't sure about acting as a magical battery for these 3, but learning spells was something she was right behind. She dropped the water. Okay. What do I do? Just touch your horn to mine. Clover stepped in front of her, and lowered her head slightly to point her horn directly at the Ilicorn. Lauren lowered her own head to touch horns, and Clover's horn glowed slightly. Darn! I don't have enough power even for this. Will the knowledge to come to you, apply your power, but gently, gently. Lauren took a deep breath, and tried gently, ever so gently, to will a copy of Clover's knowledge of spells into her mind. There was a flash of light. She was nervous and it felt like there were butterflies in her tummy, all trying to escape. She had just been chosen by the great unicorn mage, Star Swirl, to be his student after pleading to learn magic. She was determined, but still there was fear that she wouldn't be up to the task. She resolved to master as many aspects of magic as she could. Flash! Tomes, books, and figures all spread out on an old oaken desk. A single candle burning away as she took a deep breath and cast the first spell she had created all on her lonesome. Waking up bleary-eyed from the resultant explosion and crawling over to a scorched scroll to mark down not only another failure, but another step closer to success. Spell formulas and magical diagrams raced through her mind. Flash! Making light of her teacher's new beard, calling it ridiculous. His reply was to laugh, and something even more ridiculous to draw attention away from his facial hair, like putting silly bells in his hat. Flash! Standing at her teacher's side as he tended to King Platinum's growing illness. Overhearing the whispers of the unicorn nobles as they planned their power plays and schemes. She didn't really think any pony would really start blaming the Pegasi for the growing number of griffin incursions or the earth ponies for the rising cost of food. It was only logical that the blame should fall on the griffin marauder raids which the Pegasi were fighting off. Therefore they could not manage the weather as efficiently, and thus the harvest wasn't as great. Flash! Why weren't more ponies logical? At the gathering of the three tribes, she had met only two others who could see the truth: an earth pony and a Pegasus. With a heavy heart, she watched her princess fall sway to the whispers of her noble advisors. The argument between her and the leaders of the other two tribes only got louder. Flash! They came in from the icy north. The griffins united in their desire to flee. The ponies planned to stay through the winter. Flash! The winter should have ended months ago, but was only growing colder. She and her teacher spent every waking moment looking for an answer. Flash! The chill pierced her skin and seemed to permeate right down to her bones. She added another layer of enchantment on her cloak. They had a name now. Wendigos. The current theory was that whatever spawned the horrid changelings, made their inverse. Beings who feed on hate and anger, rather than love and friendship. So far, there were no solid theories on how to defeat them. All spells and enchantments had failed, as had the strength of the earth ponies and the speed and agility of the Pegasi. Flash! When the going gets tough, the ponies leave. The paradise state was no longer. The survivors made their decision. Taking only what could be carried or hauled in wagons, the ragged freezing members of each pony tribe started off in their own direction. The long exodus had begun. Flash! Cold. So many lost to the cold. And the Wendigos seemed to be following them, gaining on the caravan. This meant the volunteers who stayed behind to distract them were no more. Her tears froze before they hit the ground. Flash! The leaders should protect their people. Star Swirl stayed behind to research and coordinate the last effort, a mass teleportation spell that would require every remaining capable unicorn to cast. It would have the power to send only the foals and the surviving elderly to some place safe. Some place far away. Clover volunteered to go with her princess to draw off the Wendigos. She did not expect to see her two friends and their respective leaders attempting the same thing. Flash! A touch of harmony. That is what Star Swirl called the harmonic resonance created by the three pony tribes. The earth ponies channeled their stamina, the Pegasus ponies channeled their atmospheric control, and the unicorn spell tied them all together as each wished for the same thing with all their might. With all their hearts and with all their souls. And the Wendigos were no more. Flash! Lauren's horn slowly pulled away from Clover, who was staring at her in wide-eyed horror. What she had done was a crime of the gravest nature. A pony's mind was their own, a sacred refuge that should never be invaded, and that alicorn, she was hugging her. The alicorn cried as she tightly hugged the smaller filly. A barely audible whisper sounded in Clover's ear, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Clover's shock melted away like snow under dragon flame, replaced by pity as she realized just what the other pony had experienced. She raised her forehoof and hugged back. "No, I'm sorry. I didn't think, if my own magic wasn't powerful enough to push the memories I wanted to give you, it wouldn't be powerful enough to limit what you'd receive when you drew on them. Maybe I wanted you to understand, and that makes it even worse. I wouldn't consciously force any pony to endure the memories of the hardships we went through, especially some pony who clearly comes from a gentler place. But we must go ahead from what is. Can you forgive me for any hurt I caused you? At least you should now have my spells, and the memories of my own training, which should make your control better." Genie Spike now towered over the square, his eyes lighting on the Vampony who was still duking it out with the werewolf. A were-pony would imply that someone turned into a pony under the full moon. Actually, sign me up. He bowed his head. "My mistress Rarity, I am here to serve you. What is your command?" Pansy winced. "Oh, frozen waste. This can't be good. I think the stalemate just turned into a checkmate." Asterisk. Rainbow Dash didn't know exactly how long she'd kept Rarity and AJ from tearing each other apart, but she figured it was more than long enough for an amnesiac alicorn to fly to Sweet Apple Acres, learn magic, and return with the cutie mark crusaders in tow. This was primarily based on her observation of a Fausticorn having a conversation with three foals while levitating a sphere of water. Admittedly, that wasn't a very accurate measurement of time, but the fact remained that whoever the Fausticorn actually was definitely a looper. Anyway, she wasn't acting as a creator of worlds but more like a very confused fangirl. Which kind of made sense in a way. "Hey lakum athnani, mujarad altawakafin had ha. Non-jami ian astika huna. Kunt mazilt law of ham kolamaten wa anna akal hill. Come on you two, just stop this. We're all friends here. You still don't understand a word I'm saying, do you? Wretched cur. Kneel before my glory. Awoo. Hodhi sabi musam kisat rub mubtad hilot lakad sabak iukta teef fi," Rainbow muttered to herself. "Alfaruia, wasma hyakan hunak na and minte taurmu amaraten." This is the 7th most cliché horror story I've ever been shanghaied into. Branches, please let there be some sort of plot twist. "My mistress Rarity," boomed a voice, "I am here to serve you. What is your command?" "Oh. Well, that was probably bad." Mummy Dash, Lady Belle, and Apple Wolf all turned to see the dragon genie towering over the small town of Ponyville. Rarity and Applejack were slightly stunned, having apparently not remembered this among all the other things that their costumes had made them forget. Rainbow Dash, however, was working her mind furiously. What did she know about genies? Wishes, untold power. Twilight said they were Saddle Arabian in origin. Wait. Wasn't Saddle Arabia near the old Sphinx Empire? Well, at least she remembered it being there in the loops where she raced around the world. And mummies were a Sphinx Empire thing. So maybe, just maybe. I. Rarity composed herself. "Am most happy to see you." Rainbow Dash suddenly shouted, her strange words flying through the air. The dragon genie blinked. "She wants to, truly." "Niamai." Rainbow nodded quickly, emphasizing her words with a strange gesture. "Yes. You can understand this mare." Rarity looked from the mummy to the genie. "What is she saying?" "She claims you wish to." Spike blushed a bit, trailing off. The vampire blinked. She looked at the genie. There was a quiet moment. "Well, you do seem to have some talent in the arts of shape-shifting," she mused. "And I do rather need some relaxation after dealing with this disgusting beast. Come then. We shall away to my castle. With a flash, genie and vampire disappeared. Rainbow Dash gave a musty breath of relief. After a moment, Apple Bloom, or whoever she thought she was, coughed. Well, that was disturbing. She gave the mummy a look. Did you really? Dash shrugged, shuffling a hoof and glancing away. She hadn't been sure that the genie would even understand her. It was really a massive stroke of luck. Hey, if it works it works. After a moment, Applejack started rolling on the ground with a whiffling laugh. Ignoring the happy wolf pony for a moment, Lauren turned towards Smart Cookie. Wait, you could understand that mummy pony? Cookie notched her head to one side. Not exactly. From the way they reacted I could get the general gist. Figuring out what the other pony's not saying is pretty much a key skill in my job. And at least one word sounded similar to something I heard from a camel trader who came up past the southern mountains. He wasn't my type though. It's just. Clover seemed so knowledgeable, the alicorn said. Clover sighed and rolled her eyes, because you were talking about magical spells. You have my memories, you should know while I've studied many things, languages aren't one of them. Speaking of which, Lauren, do you think you can manage a translation spell? Pansy asked. It should prevent any other confusion. Lauren thought through her new memories for a moment before recalling Clover learning, practicing, and managing one such spell. I think so. Hold on. Gathering in her horn what to her felt like a tiny iota of her power, the alicorn imprinted the spell matrix of what she wanted the magic to do, linking concepts with spoken and written words. And in one pulse, she let the magic out. A wave of pale blue engulfed the nearby ponies, then the nearby buildings, then the nearby countryside, then everything was pale blue for a moment. That may have been a little too much power, Lauren stated. You don't say, you strange pony bird, said the small blue jay that was sitting on a nearby tree. Oh, I smell food over that way. Maybe the nice yellow pony bird left some out again. Nuts, nuts, nuts. I got to find the tasty nuts and hide them before the cold comes, sang a nearby squirrel as it raced along the ground. Hey! Happily greeted Winona the dog as she raced along. She spotted the wolf pony whose scent was almost the same as her old friend / master / alpha female, except she was a wolf pony now, which made her even better. Hey! 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 Yipped Applejack, play! Yay! Barked Winona as the two raced off together. Somewhere, a strange winged wasp / crab / mushroom creature suddenly understood the odd beings around it. It also seemed to possess a strange desire to compile all the recipes and desserts from its culture, for some reason. To serve me go, that it was a cookbook should be inherently understandable, right? It thought. Can you understand me now? Mummy Dash asked. Yep, yes, we can. Came from Lauren and the three former Cutie Mark Crusaders. Great! Finally! Exclaimed the mummy. So, any ideas what's going on? We were hoping you could tell us, Smart Cookie asked. This entire town seems to have gone insane. As witness, I'm talking to a dead person wrapped in bandages. This is just a costume, remember? Dash looked quizzically at them. Pansy shook her head. Ahoy, I've seen too many dead Pegasi not to know one when I see one. Look at your wings. You can see the bones through the feathers. Dash grimaced, not bothering to look at her wing. I suppose Private Pansy would be an expert. The name is Lieutenant Pansy. The younger Pegasus looked up at the older one, surprised by the lack of recognition. You know, second in command to Commander Hurricane? For that matter, who and what are you, and why are you still moving around? Some weird magic. Ah, great! The same thing's happened to you three, hasn't it? Rainbow Dash face-hooved. You guys think you're really the three founders? And who do you think we are? For that matter, who do you think you are? Clover asked. Well, I'm Rainbow Dash, most awesome flyer in Equestria, and I dressed up as a mummy for Nightmare Night, from Daring Do and the Pyramid of the Ancients. I was going to do Daring Do, but the pith helmet I ordered didn't come in time. So I did the mummy instead. Pretty quick fix, just wrapped some layers of TP around myself. Rarity and Applejack had just gotten into their costumes when the world went wobbly for a second, and then they really got into their costumes. Rarity was doing the whole Queen of the Night thing, and Applejack went to the dogs. I haven't seen them fight like that since, well, I wasn't actually around for Twilight's sleepover, but I heard the screams. And I ended up like this. She finally did examine her wing, and looked ill at the moth-eaten condition. It's like we've all been changed into our costumes, only they changed inside as well as out, though maybe not completely if Spike and Rarity are still into each other. You're making no sense, Clover said in an exasperated voice. For that matter, neither does this town, or this festival, Nightmare Night as you call it. It has been a scant dozen years since the Exodus. How could this town be so well developed? And you speak as if we should know those ponies. We woke up here only hours ago, having been snatched away and somehow de-aged and stripped of our emblems, our cutie marks. We must contact Chancellor Puddinghead, or my mentor Star Swirl, as this must be some ploy by the old guard to try and split the three tribes by depriving them of the focus around which the alliance is built. They tried to take our memories too, but our friendship must have protected them. They must have believed that bringing us up as unaware friends would maintain the fire of friendship while removing us as political figures. Dash shook her head, dislodging some dust which made her sneeze. Celestia, you three have it bad. Still, you three spent enough time studying at Twilight's to get your costumes just right. I guess some of it rubbed off. What in the frozen wastes do you mean? Pansy exclaimed, are you claiming we are some sort of magical copies, created by some spell? All I know is that the three of you still look like Apple Bloom, Sweetie Belle, and Scootaloo under those costumes, and that the three of you were going to dress as Smart Cookie, Clover the Clever and Private Pansy for Nightmare Night. You do the maths. Asterisk. Sully pondered what she'd been told, and the disturbing shift in Nightmare Moon's Nimi's personality. It wasn't that the other personality was abhorrent. By Ash and Elder, the sweet thing is not abhorrent at all. It was the moments of struggle and the changeover that disturbed her most. Her own spike of curiosity and dry cataloging of the symptoms, and the fact that her tiara was gently pulsing magic, letting her see a trio of spectral butterflies flitting across Nimi's cutie mark. Sully felt the ache in her heart of not only fighting to save the Lulu at the heart of Nimi but trying to save the Pegasus inside as well. She also worried about the fact she wasn't as worried about the lost soul potentially within herself. What she was really worried about was that sudden surge of alicorn magic across town. Oh, and the apparent dragon genie. Here we go again, Celestia, she thought as the elder Diarchs swung their own heads to search for the source of the disturbance. Sully frowned at the sarcastic bent of the thought. Asterisk. So. Faust said slowly. One of my creations who I haven't created yet dressed up like, and became a copy of, myself. So, I'm probably writing this right now and threw in a self-insert as an in-joke. She groaned. I hate me. Rainbow Dash sighed. Actually, how do I put this? Let me think. You're kind of a meta-joke. See, Celestia and Luna's mother was named Faust, and there's this recent sort of comedy series where the mummy waved a bandaged hoof vaguely at the alicorn, well aware that mentioning the loops in a hub universe would probably make her lose all credibility. So, yeah, het. Twilight could tell you more, she's the egghead. Smart Cookie looked back and forth between the alicorn and the mummy incredulously. You can't possibly believe this load of horse apples. I'm myself, not some ghost or shadow puppet created by some pony's imagination. Clover, tell her. But Clover was standing very still, mumbling to herself. Emblems, memory, illusion, but that would mean. Her eyes widened and she swayed on her hooves. Then she turned to the other two and they were shocked to see tears in her eyes. Oh, by the source. It makes sense, it's the only thing that makes sense. Look around you, this isn't our Equestria. You know, I wondered why our emblems didn't restore themselves with our memories. Our memories and souls are intact, and an emblem is an expression of our souls, our destinies. Magic capable of affecting that is beyond any pony I know, and if some pony had that much power, they wouldn't need to trick us, they could just rewrite the world to order. But if these bodies aren't our own, our souls and destinies can't affect them. That would explain why our emblems didn't appear. Her gaze grew distant, then focused on something far away. Oh no, there was that, the whole time. Pansy, look up in the mountains. Pansy and Smart Cookie followed her gaze, where Canterlot blazed on the mountain above in its own festival colors. But, there's no city like that anywhere. Pansy gasped. It's huge. You lead most of the surveys, do you recognize the distinctive shape of that peak? No. Yes, Mount Cantor, where the unicorns have that new mining camp. But there was nothing like that there, I swear it. And that would mean this is somewhere on the Everfree Plains. Clover turned to Dash, eyes dark. 2 more questions. What's the name of that city, and how long is it since the Exodus, since us? Dash didn't look happy about the way her comments had been received, and hesitated, but Clover's gaze held on her until she gave a sigh. Canterlot, the capital of Equestria. As to how long, I don't know, egghead stuff isn't my thing, but more than 1,000 years, a lot more. Smart Cookie shook her head violently. No, I'm not buying it. This has to be a trick, some kind of illusion to make us lose hope, this can't be the truth. Clover shook her head. I thought of that first, but it won't wash. There are too many unfamiliar things, too much change. Did you recognize even a tithe of those costumes, the styles of the housing? An illusion works by drawing you in, making your own mind do the hard work. Adding that many new elements would make it crack like cheap waddle, no matter how much raw power you threw at it. No, only reality hurts this much. And what about her, why does she remember what happened? Smart Cookie pointed at Dash. From what she said, that mummy costume was a last-minute thing, whereas our costumes were a labor of love. Maybe the more effort some pony put into the costume, the deeper the change goes. She sniffled back her tears and asked Dash. If they made costumes of us, ponies still remember us, even after all this time. Dash was feeling as rotten as she looked for how she'd hurt them, and saw a way to make up for it a bit. Are you kidding? You're the founders, the ponies who started it all. You saved every pony, founded Equestria, we even have a holiday just to celebrate it, Hearth's Warming Eve. You're the most famous ponies in the history of history. Then we succeeded? Clover asked hopefully. The 3 tribes learned to live together. Just look at the 3 of you. Dash pointed at them. Scoots, Sweetie Belle and Apple Bloom are the best of friends. They may fight occasionally, but I've never heard them fight because they're not the same race. Just the idea that ponies could do that freaks most ponies out, it'd be like ponies fighting because they had different coat colors or mane styles. Doesn't mean we don't have some problems, but yet, you guys did it, big time. That's something, at least. Clover sighed. Asterisk. She tried to hold it in. She really did. But at the highly emotional moment when the 3 fillies turned historical legends were wrapped up in the joy of knowing that their mission was a success, that the 3 pony tribes not only managed to live together in peace, but thrive, it just came out. Lauren spoke out, Buffy did it. All eyes turned towards the alicorn who now had her front hooves covering her mouth. She slowly lowered her hooves and took a deep breath, I'm sorry. It just came to me. People turning into their costumes. I remembered something similar happening in a show I saw, but it was years ago. What caused such an event? Smart Cookie asked. Pansy chimed in, and how was it ended? Let me think. There was a statue to a chaos god or something. Discord, Rainbow Dash almost growled. It had been many relative years since before the loops started, but she still hadn't completely forgiven him for taking away her wings. He's the bigwig spirit of chaos around here. Lauren nodded, okay, and there was a chaos mage who kicked off the whole thing. Is there a pony around here that likes or worships chaos? Mummy Rainbow Dash gave off a long, dust-filled sigh. Pinkie Pie. There was a pause as the Pegasus collected her thoughts. Imagine the living embodiment of a sugar high who likes to party, dance, sing, do completely impossible things, and then party even more, and you'll pretty much know what she's like. Lauren smiled, fondly remembering one of her old pony dolls. Great. Now we just need to find where she has the statue and smash it. Then everyone will be back to normal. And what happened to the assumed personas on this show? Clever Clover asked. I don't really know, the Alicorn said. The fillies you all are possessing may retain some of your memories and skills. The show I saw never showed what happened to the ones who possessed the costumed people. Clover nodded in understanding. A pity our real selves will never know of this. It would be a comfort knowing we will succeed beyond our expectations. Still, we can help, agreed. She looked at the other two. Pansy just nodded, but Smart Cookie gave a deep sigh and said, it's not given to a pony how long they live, but we can control how we use that time, even if it's only a single night. Freeing this town would be a good use of it. So where would this Pinkie Pie have the chaos statue? Pansy questioned. Sugar Cube Corner. Rainbow Dash motioned to the others to follow her, the bakery that looks like a giant gingerbread cookie house. It makes that unicorn who wants to be a dentist growl every time she has to walk past it. It's this a way. As the group turned a corner, they came upon the assorted Celestias, Lunas, and Nightmare Moons. They all turned towards the new Alicorn, eyes widening in recognition. A chorus of voices called out in hopeful amazement, Mother! Asterisk. Mother, is that truly you? No, sister, it is not her, Nightmare Moon snapped. Lest ye forget, this is the night of costumes, of which we and thou art also. Her face softened considerably. There's no reason to be rude, Nightmare. Lauren took a breath. Listen, dear. I'm not exactly your mother. I don't even have memories of you. The younger Celestia wilted. I see. But, hugs. Sully stepped forward, almost teary-eyed, and took the proffered embrace. Nightmare Moon scoffed, then slapped herself. Ow! That was not necessary. Yes it was, and you know it. Rainbow Dash gave Nightmare Moon an odd look. What's up with you? We're not exactly sure how, but Fluttershy managed to somewhat break through the ensorcelment. Luna stepped forward and nodded to the founders. It is an honor to be in your presence once more, even if you are not truly, well. The fact remains, we do require some assistance in organizing a reaction to, are you aware of what is happening? According to the meta-joke Faust over there, Rainbow Dash pointed at the red-maned Alicorn giving Sully an awkward smile, some servant of chaos made a chaos statue and now everyone's become their costumes. Kind of. I'm still Rainbow Dash, I'm just a mummy now, but the Crusaders have, they're the founders, mind and soul. A statue. Luna tilted her head. That's an interesting idea. Rainbow leaned in close and whispered quickly. Luna's eyes widened. Oh. Right. That makes sense. Tia shook her head. So, from all that, I assume. Pinkie Pie. It would make sense, Rainbow replied. Let's just head over to Sugar Cube Corner and. She blinked. Is that a fire over there? Asterisk. No. You are not going in there, Dinky, and that's final. Look, miss, I have to make sure that no pony is trapped in there. It's my job. You are not a fire pony! Derpy yelled, tears streaming down her face. You are my daughter. I'm not going to lose you. Maybe I am. The filly snapped. Maybe I'm your daughter and I'm transformed and I don't remember anything about it. That doesn't change the fact that there is a building on fire. Even if no pony is in there, I have to stop it. Who else can? Who else here has the knowledge, ability, and let's face it, sanity to handle this? The Pegasus looked up at the blazing sugar cube corner. I. She sniffled. Just. Please. Try not to. I promise I'll come back. The fire pony hugged her gently. Don't worry. I promise that I'll come back. And neither of them noticed the pink form flying away from the blaze, an odd little statue gripped in its claws as it glided toward the ever-free. Asterisk. As soon as she started to get close to the burning building, Lieutenant Quick Deployment felt the heat of the burning blaze that was consuming the building and weakening its structural integrity. Her oxygen tank was almost empty and the backup from the station hadn't arrived yet, leaving her without much time to think. She needed to act fast and look for anyone still trapped in Sugar Cube Corner. She touched the front door handle with her hoof and found it burning hot. Her fire axe swung telekinetically through the air, making some holes for the flames start to burst through and equalizing the oxygen inside. Quick Deployment steadied herself, taking a few steps back. Then she charged the door, bursting through with a single swing of her axe. Ponyville Fire Department! She shouted through her oxygen mask. Is anyone here? Please answer or make some noise so I can get to where you are. Her experienced eyes scanned the front of the business, quickly determining that the fire had started in the kitchens. The flames in her small body made said room inaccessible, but the stairs seemed to be safe. She rushed up, pressing her hoof against the first door she found. The heat forced her to recoil. With a sad glance, she moved on. The next room, thankfully, wasn't hot enough to be consumed by flames. She announced herself with a quick shout, Ponyville Fire Department. Someone please respond. Anne quickly entered. It turned out to be a basic bathroom, and a quick search found no pony hiding in the tub or the cabinets. The room after that, the master bedroom, had a minor blaze already. Fortunately, it was unoccupied. As Quick Deployment headed to the final room, she spared a glance at the stairs. Tongues of fire were already licking up. Time was running out. Quick Deployment approached the final door, pressing against it. Ponyville Fire Department. Is anyone there? Unlike the other doors, there was actually some kind of noise. But it wasn't just any kind of noise, it was the one kind of noise she didn't want to hear in this situation. It was the crying of an infant foal. Without thinking twice, she opened the door as fast as she could, noticing that it was filled with plush animals and other didactic toys. In the center of the room was a cradle with a small yellow earth pony foal. The baby was wailing with all his little lungs could give him. Quick Deployment could sense the flames getting closer as she carefully lifted the small bundle of joy out of the crib. But the flames were already covering the hallway and getting inside the room. She could even hear the sound of the roof collapsing in the other places of the house. The structural integrity of the building wouldn't last much longer. Quick Deployment's mind raced as she placed the oxygen mask to the foal's face, looking around quickly there. A window. Clutching the foal tightly to her chest, she steeled herself and ran toward it, leaping out just before a burst of fire destroyed the room. Boom! The force sent her further than she expected, but already she was curled around the infant and rolling on the ground, into a set of bushes. She sputtered, spitting out leaves as she clambered out. I'm not doing this ever again if I can help it. Her eyes drifted toward the foal, and she sighed in relief as she saw him look back with wide eyes. Moment later she was wrapped up in a tight hug. Dinky! Are you all right, Muffin? Derpy couldn't hold back the tears as she brushed both the foal's clothes. Does something hurt? Please say something. Ms. Hooves. Did you get burned? Did any piece of debris hit you? Ms. Hooves, I'm fine. Please don't tell me you're dying. I can't lose you the same way I lost your father. Please don't leave me and your sister alone. Ms. Hooves. I was trying to tell you that I am fine. Fine. The fire pony broke out of the hug with an exasperated sigh. Geez, it was just a few scrapes, and the temporal pain of hitting my back with the oxygen tank when I landed, nothing out of routine. Derpy sniffed, giving her a worried look. Are you sure? Quick deployment took a breath, calming herself. Yeah, I'm sure of it. This is not my first fire, Ms. Hooves, and I don't think it will be my last. She looked toward the burning building. What it worries me right now is how to extinguish the fire before it propagates to the nearby houses. Calm down this little tyke, find his parents, get some water to drink, and get to the hospital for a checkup after this mess. That is in order from the top priority to the least one, Ms. Hooves. Okay, I guess I can help you with the first one, Derpy finally replied. I may not be Rainbow Dash, but if there's one thing I can handle a little better than her, it's storm clouds. That will put out the fire and keep the other houses humid enough to not catching fire. She gave Sugar Cube Corner a glance. Or, knowing my luck, set half the other houses on fire. Excuse me, what was the last part? Nothing. Nothing at all. Don't worry about it, just leave it to me. I trust your judgment, Ms. Hooves. Please be quick in gathering the storm cloud, I don't think my buddies of the station will arrive in time. Derpy saluted. Don't worry, Muffin, Mom is on the case. She gave a little nuzzle to the infant before backing off with an odd expression. Wait, is that carrot cake? No, never mind, I don't want to know. Shaking her head, she took to the air. Asterisk. Having another alicorn bow to you was a disconcerting thing for the three founders, especially as there were 4 more besides, though 2 were clearly copies of 2 others. However, the fire distracted every pony. We should go there with all speed, see if we can render aid. Pansy said, trying to lift off to see better. In our present state, I'm not sure. Clover's eyes alighted on a spilled bag that had once been part of a pirate costume. The candy gems inside had been transmuted into real ones, likewise the chocolate gold pieces, and her eyes brightened up. Or maybe we can. She forked through them with a hoof, and levitated 3 of the biggest and finest, a diamond, a sapphire and an emerald, as well as some other odds and ends. We can work on the move. Smart Cookie had gone over by Princess Luna as they moved off. You seem to know us personally, but I for one have never met you. Our memories seem to extend until a dozen years after the alliance. But from what we've been told, that was well over 1,000 years ago. Also, from Rainbow's reaction, you are native to this time and place. Who are you, and how can this be, if you don't mind me asking? I am Princess Luna, ruler of night and guardian of dreams, and my sister is Princess Celestia, ruler of the day and protector of pony kind. We now raise the sun and moon, rather than a team of unicorn nobles. Smart Cookie's eyes widened. But that would deprive the unicorn nobility of the largest portion of their power. It would change everything. Indeed it did, but that is not what you asked. You were very old when we met you, only alive because of Clover's spells, but even then you were an inspiration. We alicorns on the other hoof are immortal, or rather unaging. You mean, you have lived that entire time from then to now? Then it is the 2 of you who are truly responsible for this world, not we, Your Highness. Luna shook her head. Only because we had your example to guide us. You, of all ponies, need not use our titles. Indeed, the elements of harmony were a development of Clover's elaboration of Starswirl's original research into the nature of magic and its connection to the minds and emotions of all 3 pony races. Elements of harmony? Smart Cookie asked. Fausticorn and Clover had been talking, and casting spells on the floating gems. Finally, Clover came back to the other 2 carrying 2 chokers. The third, containing a diamond, was around her neck. Lauren agreed to lend us some of her power, and I transferred my design for a way to relay it along with my other memories. She helped craft these, and it should give all three of us at least a measure of our adult powers. She even suggested an improvement. I was too wedded to the idea of a physical ritual diagram, drawn on the ground. These form a ritual triune, but the links between the vertices use our friendship as the conduit. It's a fascinating idea, I only wish my real self could benefit from it. Her expression saddened for a second, but she quickly recovered, and she put the chokers around the other two's necks, the sapphire for Pansy and the emerald for Cookie. Pansy started flapping her wings like a hummingbird, but this time she took off like a Harrier jump jet. Now this is more the business. Princess Celestia overheard the comment Clover made and asked, "Why do you say that? You are as real as any pony." "No, we're not, we're simply far better copies than most. The enchantment on the costumes made us unusually detailed, but we will vanish along with the spell." Celestia's eyes widened in surprise. "So that's what you meant? You told me once, that if I ever found you doubting you existed, to tell you the following phrase. He should have been called Levelhead." Clover giggled. "Oh, that old chestnut. Smart Cookie always said her boss should be." "Wait, how could we know that if we're just gestalts created by magic? That was a private thing between the three of us, we swore never to reveal it." Celestia's horn glowed slightly. "I think the spell did something different in your case, brought your souls forward in time. I can sense the difference between you and Fluttershy or Twilight. Does that mean when the spell ends we will return to our real bodies?" Hope dawned in Smart Cookie's eyes. Celestia nodded. "It would make sense. I don't know how much you will remember, but enough to tell me that phrase to use." They'd reached the burning building, which had half collapsed, and Rainbow Dash yelled out, "Sugar Cube Corner!" ***. Quick Deployment gave an exasperated sigh. "Great, more civilly, your majesties." She bowed quickly, careful not to let her magical grip drop the infant she was carrying. "I can personally reassure you that the building is vacated. I went through and got every pony out. One of the local Pegasi is, why are there 7 of you?" "Costume curse," Clover explained simply. "As far as we can tell, every pony became there. Nightmare Night, was it? Nightmare Night costumes." Cadance picked the infant up gently, rocking him to sleep and giving a reassuring wing hug to the shivering alicorn filly she had been tending to. "Don't worry, Aurora, this brave fire pony managed to save everyone in the blaze." "I don't like fire," the filly sniffled, unaware of her glowing horn. "I want it gone." The entire area was suddenly subjected to a 3-second deluge. Founder, alicorn, mummy, and fire pony all stood, blinking the water out of their eyes. "Well," Quick Deployment said slowly. "I guess that's one way to put out a fire." Derpy glided down, musing up the fire pony's mane. "Did I do that? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. And now I'm disintegrating," deadpanned. "Great. ***. Rainbow Dash's voice trailed off in a gurgle as she collapsed in a heap of sodden linen and bones before every pony's horrified gaze. The pile rippled, and suddenly it was a regular blue Pegasus swathed in soaking toilet paper. She spat out a mouthful. "Ugh! The toilet paper should be on the houses, not me. Never doing that again." "Of course!" Clover exclaimed. "The curse changes you into your costume, so damage done to your assumed form is damage done to the costume. So even if your costume form is killed or destroyed, all that happens is you revert to normal with a wrecked costume." "Ingenious." "Miss," Smart Cookie asked the fire pony, "did you see some sort of statue or bust in there?" She turned to the group. "What does this Discord creature look like anyway?" Pansy was up in the air, converting the steam rising off the smoldering wreckage into clouds and chilling them to suck the last remnants of heat out of the destroyed building. "It must have been pretty durable to survive this, and it must have. We're still here." Princess Celestia was casting about with her horn, looking like a giant white bloodhound. It's possible it didn't need to. The aura of chaos magic is strong, but it's not centered inside the building. It seems to lead off towards the ever-free forest. Yep, that about figures. Grumbled Rainbow Dash. Sister, thou do believe some villain absconded with it and set the place afire the place to cover his tracks? Luna asked. Then we must give chase with all haste. Asterisk. Rainbow Dash looked at the wrapped-up foal Cadance was currently holding, which had been saved from the fire, and raised an eyebrow. Carrot Cake should be a full-grown stallion, baker and warden, employer of Pinkie Pie, and yet there he was as an infant. She chalked it down to more weirdness from the spell. All the now dry alicorns and founders were setting up a spell to better locate the perpetrator of the fire. All the alicorns except the small filly, which Rainbow had never seen before. Hello. So, who might you be? The newly demummified Pegasus asked. I'm Aurora, said the filly alicorn. Do you know where my mother is? Who is your mother, little one? Quick Deployment asked after looking sadly at the wet remains of the bakery. She was used to working with a full team of mixed ponies to put out fires before they got this bad. Ideally, there would also be a few fully laden rain clouds on hoof at the station. Aurora thought for a little while before remembering, my mother is Princess Skyla. Rainbow Dash spoke up, and do you know your grandmother's name? The little alicorn filly thought for a moment. Then she pointed at the alicorn who was holding the foal, Grandma Candy. Princess Cadance stopped rocking the foal as her eyes shrunk down to pinpricks. Rainbow's wings fluttered as comprehension hit her, right. Princess Cadence's granddaughter. From the future. With everything else crazy around here, why not? Any luck with tracing the statue? The actual Celestia asked. Luna turned around with a smile, yes. Asterisk. It had finished the cookbook it had been compelled to write, and cast the appropriate protection spells on the tome. Fluttering out of the window, the fungal creature had skittered around the chaos outside, casually pulling information of the local language from the minds of several of the afflicted. That was when it overheard what was happening. There was a chance it could simply stop existing once the ethereal conflagration was through, and that was unacceptable. Once it was back at the bakery, the focal point statue was easy to locate. Snatching it up in its claws, the Migo fluttered out the window. A brief burst of personal power later, and everything in the room, except the cookbook, was on fire. Half flying, half scuttling in the wild magic forest with the statue, distracted by deflecting scrying spells, it never noticed that something was watching it. Right up until a small furry foot impacted it in the back of its head. Its last thought before losing consciousness was that of confusion. How was it possible that it was hit with far more force than a bandana and war paint wearing white rabbit had any right to wield? Asterisk. Quick, this way. Luna took off in the ever-free forest's direction, and her companions quickly followed suit. The group of ponies, increasingly consisting of alicorns, soon reached the forest's outskirts, where a creature, part fungus, part shrimp, and part something, was rising from the dirt, hissing and swinging its tail at Angel Bunny. Nightmare Moon's gaze shifted mid-sentence. Well, done, Master No. Bad Bunny. I mean, no. Well done, Angel. I mean oh, willst thou decide, already? Angel Bunny gave the mare a confused look, but then puffed out his chest and adjusted his bandana, after which he turned around to face the Migo again, who was in the middle of trying to sneak away. For its trouble, it received a bunny kick to the shin or whatever that was and doubled over backwards. While Nightmare Moon was still bickering with herself, Lauren stepped forward and looked the strange creature over. Nah, Lovecraftian horrors don't really fit a setting intended for young audiences. Ignoring their creator's avatar's shadow's comment, Tia stepped forward and took a telekinetic hold of the statuette of discord in the Migo's claws, or better tried to, as suddenly the creature leapt up and whipped around, its wings buzzing for takeoff. Asterisk. Smart Cookie took a far more direct approach. Clover, give me a boost. She jumped, and a burst of magic flung her at the creature, dropping her on its back and bearing it to the ground. Lieutenant Pansy helped to pony pile the thing, and a glow of magic pressed it against the floor, binding it to the ground as Clover added her efforts to restraining the thing. It's still fighting, she said. Someone needs to destroy that statue now. Lauren, it's been a privilege and a pleasure. I hope the story you write brings joy to many fillies and colts. Princesses, I speak for us all when I say, thank you for continuing our work. There was a chorus of agreement from the other two. Asterisk. Lauren picked up the statue in her magic. She giggled for a moment as it hovered and glowed. Hee hee, I'm Jean Grey. All right, don't give me that look. Time for serious. You would kill children. Lauren froze. I do not claim to find anything wrong in it, Krakasin continued calmly. But I know by your morality it is odd. Destroying that statue would eliminate the persona that they have taken. The spawn, in particular, must concern you. It nodded toward Cadance, who was shielding her potential granddaughter and the regressed carrot cake with her wings. And that is only amongst those you are aware of. Certainly, it would be far less disturbing to leave it untouched. Rainbow snorted. Hey, I turned back to normal easy peasy. It's not going to kill any pony if she. You were still who you were, the Migo countered, if different in form. And perhaps it could be argued that these three will return, so all the replicas of truth will be sent back with only confusion. But what of you and I? It turned back to Lauren. We have no home. We are constructs. And how many in that town are constructs themselves? We will melt away. Do you truly want that much of reality to cease? The alicorn looked at the statue in her magical grip. If I had a choice, she murmured, I would take the constructed identities and make them separate bodies. But I don't know how to do that. And if I could, I would go out and ask every one of them if they would accept this. But, right here, right now, you and I are dangerous. In very different ways, yet, but I don't. She shivered. I can't. Unexpectedly the statue sighed and snapped its fingers, metamorphosing into a multicolored chimera with a grumpy frown. Let me just cut off all the drama here, the spell only lasts until sunlight hits the costume. The statue never had anything to do with ending it. Oh, and the constructed personae are actually facets of the costume makers and will rejoin with their mind when they disappear. Now if you'll excuse me, I need to go see what chaos is happening in Ponyville. Ta-ta. He walked off from the stunned onlookers. Eventually Celestia face-hooved. Of course Discord would pull something like that. Grew up. The solution is clear, Krakasin said calmly. You and I merely need to avoid sunlight. Yeah, sure, you know what. The red-maned alicorn snorted. You do that. I've just been put through an emotional ringer and then told it didn't even matter. She stomped off, muttering curses under her breath. After a moment, Smart Cookie cleared her throat. Does this mean we should let this thing go? Asterisk. So it was true, after all, the false alicorn said as she tested her wings after they started to brighten, realizing they had lost some sensibility and were much more difficult to move. I'm just an illusion or an echo of a memory, am I not? Luna and Celestia stopped and looked to the fake alicorn, but she was looking at the moon in the sky, her eyes with unshed tears. Please, there's no need to hide it for me. I may recognize we are near the Everfree Forest, but there are so many things I don't understand about tonight, starting with both of you and this Ponyville. And since I'm just an illusion, then it means it won't matter if I do this. Then the fake Celestia threw herself to Luna, crying and hugging her fiercely. Lulu. I thought I'd never see you again, sister. I'm so happy to see you like this, so grown up. Luna just hugged and petted back. Letting go slightly of Luna, the ensorcelled Celestia looked to the real one. And you, real me, I don't know how much what's worth the opinion of your echo, but thank you. I envy you so much, but now I can disappear with no regrets. Celestia just shook her head. Don't thank me, I didn't do anything. It took a new set of element bearers to help Luna. Then please give my thanks to them. Luna contained her giggle into a lopsided smile, mimicking Celestia's own expression. Will do, Sully, we promise. Asterisk. Well, that was certainly interesting, Twilight muttered to herself. It's definitely going in my top 50 weirdest loops. Well, at least it's over now. There was a knock on the library door. She stood up and walked over, opening it to find the worried faces of 3 cutie mark crusaders. Hey there, girls. What's going on? Apple Bloom shifted a hoof, giving her an awkward glance. You know how the founders made necklaces to boost their power. Twilight nodded. Yeah, they didn't transform back to candy, did they? No, Scudalo confirmed. They didn't. But it gets weirder. Really? How? Sweetie Belle pulled the necklaces out of her saddlebags. Well, when we wear them, we can hear voices. Raising an eyebrow, Twilight took the necklaces and ran a quick check over them for dangerous magic before slipping one on. As far as I can tell, Cookie, that spell I had the Alicorn cast that night dragged our souls forward after we died. No, Pansy, I don't think it's reversible. Oh, wait, I'm being worn. Hello there. I'm Clover, yes, that Clover, it's a long story.